The lights inside Harmony 7 research station flickered for the third time that morning. Dr. Yuna looked up from her microscope and frowned. The station was old, yes, but it never had power problems like this before. Something was wrong. She stood up from her workstation and walked to the large window that showed the endless darkness of space. Stars twinkled in the distance like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. Harmony 7 floated at the edge of the outer rim, far from the busy center of the galaxy where the powerful species lived. Out here, scientists from 12 different worlds worked together to study the mysteries of the universe. Yuna was one of only 23 humans on the station. The others called her kind Deathworlders, because Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. The gravity was too strong, the weather was too violent, the animals were too deadly, and the air itself contained a gas called oxygen that most species considered poison. But Yuna did not feel like a monster. She was just a scientist who wanted to understand alien life forms. She had left Earth 5 years ago to join this station, hoping to make friends and learn new things. Instead, she found that most aliens kept their distance from her. They were polite, but she could see the fear in their eyes whenever she walked past them. The door to her laboratory slid open, and Taeho walked in. He was a tall man with tired eyes and oil stains on his uniform. Like Yuna, he was human. Unlike Yuna, he worked as an engineer, keeping the station's machines running smoothly. "Did you feel that power drop?" he asked. "Yes." "What is happening?" Taeho's face was serious. "I checked the sensor arrays. There are ships coming. Many ships. And they are not in our database." Yuna felt a cold feeling in her stomach. Unknown ships in the outer rim were never good news. Pirates sometimes attacked small stations. But Harmony 7 was too big and too well protected for ordinary criminals. "Have you told Director Palax?" she asked. "I am going there now. I thought you should know first." They walked together through the curved hallways of the station. Harmony 7 was shaped like a wheel, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Over 3,000 scientists lived and worked here, representing 12 different species. Yuna passed by tall, thin Velari with their silver skin. She nodded at a group of Trivians, insect-like beings with 4 arms and large compound eyes. A small phoenix, covered in blue fur, hurried past carrying a data tablet. None of them knew what was coming. The command center was located at the hub of the station, where the artificial gravity was weakest. Director Palax stood in front of the main screen, his segmented body clicking with agitation. He was a Trivian, and he had led this station for 30 years. He was old, wise, and respected by everyone. He was also afraid of humans. "Ah, the Deathworlders," he said when Yuna and Taeho entered. His voice was dry and clicking, like stones rubbing together. "I assume you have seen the sensor readings." "Yes, Director," Taeho said. "I cannot identify the ships. They do not match any known design." Palax turned back to the screen. The image showed a fleet of vessels moving slowly toward the station. They were black and organic-looking, like giant sea creatures swimming through space. There were at least 50 of them, and they were big. "I have identified them," Palax said quietly. "They are Vrikani." The room went silent. Yuna saw the color drain from the faces of every alien in the command center. Even the humans felt the sudden weight of fear in the air. "That is impossible," said a Velari scientist named Solis. "The Vrikani have been extinct for 10,000 years. "Apparently not," Palax replied. Yuna had heard stories about the Vrikani during her training. They were an ancient species that had once terrorized the galaxy. They did not conquer worlds. They harvested them. They took everything of value, including the living beings, and left nothing behind but empty rocks floating in space. The Galactic Council had united against them long ago and supposedly destroyed them all. But here they were, alive and moving toward Harmony 7. "We must send a distress signal," Yuna said. Palax's compound eyes turned toward her. "That has already been done. A message has been sent to the Galactic Council. And to Earth?" The director's antennae twitched with irritation. "Why would we contact Earth? This is a matter for the Council to handle. We do not need Deathworlders making things worse." Yuna felt anger rise in her chest. but she kept her voice calm. "Director, Earth has a fleet. The Council is far away. If we need help quickly—" "Enough," Palax interrupted. "The Council will respond. They always do. In the meantime, we will seal the station and wait. Everyone return to your stations and prepare for lockdown." The meeting ended. Yuna and Tejo walked back toward the human section of the station in silence. When they were alone, Tejo spoke quietly. "The Council is 6 days away by hyperspace. The Vrekani will reach us in 18 hours. I know. They will not help us in time, Yuna." "I know." They stopped at a junction in the hallway. Tejo looked at her with serious eyes. "There is a secondary communication array in the engineering section. It is old, but it still works. I can give you access to it." Yuna understood what he was saying. If she used that array to contact Earth without permission, she would be breaking station rules. Director Palax would be furious. She could lose her job, her position, everything she had worked for. But if she did nothing, everyone on this station might die. "Show me," she said. The engineering section was dark and quiet. Most of the crew was preparing for lockdown in other parts of the station. Tejo led Yuna to a small room filled with old equipment covered in dust. In the corner stood a communication console that looked like it had not been used in years. "This was the original emergency beacon," Tejo explained. "It sends a focused signal directly to a target location. No one monitors it anymore." Yuna sat down at the console and began typing. Her fingers moved quickly across the strange alien keyboard. She had to translate her message into a format that Earth's receivers would understand. She had to make it short because the power was limited. She had to make it clear because there would be no chance to explain further. When she was finished, only 3 words glowed on the screen. "Earth, help, please." She pressed the send button. Somewhere across 62 light-years of empty space, the message began its journey toward the blue planet that most of the galaxy feared. Yuna did not know if anyone would receive it. She did not know if anyone would care. All she knew was that she had done everything she could. Now, she could only wait. Behind her, Tejo placed a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens," he said, "you did the right thing." Yuna nodded. But she did not feel comforted. Through the small window of the engineering room, she could see the Vrekani fleet growing larger against the stars. They moved with terrible purpose, like predators closing in on wounded prey. The station shook as the first harvester ship attached itself to the outer ring. The nightmare had begun. 62 light-years away from Harmony 7, the planet Earth turned slowly in the warm light of its yellow sun. From space, it looked peaceful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds drifted across green and brown continents. It was beautiful in a way that made other species uncomfortable. Because Earth was a killer. The gravity pulled down on everything with crushing force. The weather changed without warning, bringing storms that could flatten cities. The oceans were filled with creatures that had millions of teeth and no mercy. The land animals hunted each other in an endless cycle of death. Even the smallest insects could carry diseases that killed in days. And the air. The air was filled with oxygen, a gas so dangerous that it could make metal rust and cause fire to burn. Humans breathed this poison every moment of every day. And it made them strong. It made them heal fast. It made them able to run and fight for hours without stopping. The rest of the galaxy called Earth a death world, and called its people Deathworlders. They meant it as a warning. Admiral Jisoo sat in her office at the United Earth Space Command headquarters in Seoul. She was 53 years old, with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had served in the Space Navy for 30 years, fighting pirates, protecting colonies, and keeping Earth safe from threats that most civilians never knew existed. Her morning briefing had been routine until a young officer rushed in with a data chip. "Admiral, we received something strange on the old emergency channel. It came from the outer rim." Jisoo took the chip and inserted it into her desk console. The message was short. Only 3 words in simple code that any human receiver would understand. "Earth, help, please." The sender identification showed it came from Research Station Harmony 7, The Galactic Council database listed 23 human civilians stationed there. Jisoo pulled up the personnel files and found the likely sender. Dr. Yuna, xenobiologist, age 31, no military background. Get me everything about Harmony 7, Jisoo ordered, and find out what is happening in that sector. An hour later, she had her answers. 4 research stations in the Outer Rim had gone dark in the past week. No distress signals from the Council channels. No rescue missions sent. The Galactic Council had issued a statement calling it equipment failure and asking everyone to remain calm. But Jisoo saw the pattern. The stations had been destroyed in a line, moving toward Harmony 7. Her second-in-command, Captain Do-hyun, stood at attention across from her desk. He was younger than her, with a serious face and a reputation for being one of the best pilots in the fleet. It could be pirates, he said, or slavers. No. Jisoo shook her head. Pirates hit and run. They do not move in patterns. Something else is happening. She made a decision. Contact intelligence. I want to know what destroyed those stations. And I want to know why the Council is lying about it. The answer came faster than she expected. Admiral. Do-hyun's voice was tense when he returned. Intelligence has decoded some recovered transmissions from one of the destroyed stations. The attackers. They identify as Vrakani. Jisoo felt ice form in her heart. She had studied history. She knew what the Vrakani had done to the galaxy 10,000 years ago. She knew the stories of worlds stripped bare, of entire species harvested like crops. The Galactic Council had always claimed the Vrakani were destroyed forever. They had been wrong. How long until they reach Harmony 7? Based on their speed, approximately 12 hours. And the Council response? Do-hyun hesitated. The nearest Council fleet is 6 days away. They have sent no ships. They are still investigating. 5-6 tenths. 5. Jisoo stood up from her desk. Through her window, she could see the ships of the Third Fleet floating in orbit above Earth. 17 warships, built by humans, crewed by humans, armed with weapons that other species considered too dangerous to use. The fleet was meant for defense, but Jisoo had always known that sometimes defense meant going on the attack. One of ours sent that message, she said quietly. One human, alone and afraid, reached out to us for help. And the Council did not ask for our assistance, Do-hyun reminded her. No, but she did. Jisoo pressed the communication button on her desk. All ships of the Third Fleet. This is Admiral Jisoo. Begin emergency mobilization. I want every vessel ready for hyperspace jump in 6 hours. This is not a drill. The response was immediate. Across the fleet, alarms sounded and crews rushed to their stations. Engineers powered up engines that could push ships faster than light. Weapons officers loaded missiles and charged energy cannons. Soldiers checked their armor and their weapons. On the ground, Commander Hannah received her orders and smiled. She was the leader of the Ground Assault Division. 500 soldiers trained for the most dangerous missions. They called themselves the Earthborn, and they were proud of it. Listen up, she said to her troops in the assembly hall. We have civilians in danger. Aliens think they can attack a station with humans on it and get away with it. We are going to teach them why that was a mistake. Her soldiers cheered. 6 hours later, the Third Fleet was ready. 17 warships hung in formation above Earth, their engines glowing blue with barely contained power. Admiral Jisoo stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UESE Defiance, watching the final preparations. Admiral, Do-hyun reported, all ships report ready for hyperspace. Navigation, course plotted. 62 light years, arriving in approximately 9 hours. That would give them 3 hours to spare before the Vrakani finished whatever they were doing to Harmony 7. 3 hours was not much, but it was enough. Jisoo took a deep breath. She thought about the young scientist who had sent that message. She thought about all the humans who had gone out into the galaxy, hoping to find acceptance, and instead finding fear. She thought about what it meant to be called a Deathworlder. Most species used that word as an insult. They meant it to keep humans afraid and isolated. They wanted humans to feel ashamed of their violent world and their dangerous nature. But Jisoo had never felt ashamed. Earth had made her people strong. It had taught them to fight, to survive, to never give up. Other species saw that as a threat. Today, they would learn that it could also be a blessing. All ships, she announced over the fleet channel. This is Admiral Jisoo. We are going to rescue our people. We are going to stop an enemy that the rest of the galaxy is too afraid to face. They call us Deathworlders because they fear where we come from. Today, we show them why they should be glad we are on their side. Engage hyperspace on my mark. She paused for 1 heartbeat. 2. Mark. 17 ships vanished from Earth orbit in a flash of blue light. They tore through the fabric of space-time itself, moving faster than light, faster than thought, racing toward a station full of terrified scientists who had no idea that help was coming. In the silence they left behind, Earth continued to turn. The blue planet that had created monsters. The cradle of the Deathworlders. And somewhere in the outer rim, the Vrakani had no idea what was heading their way. The screaming had stopped 3 hours ago. That was somehow worse than when it had started. Yuna crouched behind a barricade made of broken furniture and metal panels. Around her, about 1,200 survivors huddled in the central core of Harmony 7. They were all that remained of the 3,000 souls who had called this station home. The Vrakani had been thorough. Their harvester ships had attached to the outer rings like parasites, drilling through the hull and sending boarding parties inside. The creatures that emerged were nightmares given form. They stood 8 feet tall, with bodies covered in black chitin armor that grew from their own flesh. Their faces had no eyes, only rows of teeth and sensors that could detect heat, sound, and fear. They did not kill quickly. They captured. They harvested. Yuna had seen what they did to their prisoners, and she wished she could forget. Director Palax had died trying to negotiate. He had walked toward the Vrakani with his arms raised in the universal gesture of peace. They had grabbed him and dragged him away. His screams had echoed through the communication channels for 20 minutes before going silent. Now, a young Trivian named Chirik led the survivors. He was barely an adult by his species standards, but he had organized the retreat to the central core and sealed the blast doors. The Vrakani could not breach them easily. Not yet. How much longer can we hold? Yuna asked him. Chirik's antennae drooped with exhaustion. The doors will last perhaps another 6 hours. After that, he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Tejo was working on a damaged sensor array in the corner, trying to get some picture of what was happening outside. His hands were shaking, but his focus never wavered. Around them, survivors from a dozen species sat in small groups, some crying, some praying to gods that Yuna had never heard of. Some simply staring at nothing. A small Phoenix child, barely bigger than a human toddler, wandered over to Yuna and tugged at her sleeve. Its blue fur was matted with dust, and its large eyes were wet with tears. "Are the monsters going to eat us?" it asked in a tiny voice. Yuna felt her heart break. She knelt down to meet the child's eyes. "No," she said, even though she did not believe it. "We are going to be okay." The child nodded and went back to its mother, who gave Yuna a look of gratitude mixed with despair. "Yuna." Tejo's voice was strange. "Come look at this." She hurried over to his station. The sensor display was fuzzy and full of static, but she could make out the Vrakani fleet surrounding the station. At least 40 ships, all of them massive, all of them filled with creatures that wanted to harvest every living thing on Harmony 7. But Tejo was not looking at the Vrakani. There. He pointed at the edge of the display. Multiple signatures, coming fast. Yuna squinted at the screen. She saw dots of light moving toward the station at incredible speed. They were not Vrakani. They were not moving like any alien ship she had ever seen. They were moving like... "That is not possible," she whispered. "I count 17 ships," Tejo said. His voice was shaking, but now with something other than fear. "The energy signatures match human military vessels." Chirik had approached behind them. "Humans? Your people sent ships?" Yuna could not speak. She had sent that message 12 hours ago with no real hope that anyone would hear it. She had not expected the Council to respond, let alone Earth. Earth was far away. Earth had its own problems. Earth had no reason to risk its fleet for a station full of aliens who feared and distrusted humans, but they had come anyway. How is that possible? Chirrut demanded. Earth is 62 light-years away. Their ships cannot travel that fast. You do not know what our ships can do, Tejo replied. There was pride in his voice that Yuna had never heard before. You never wanted to know. The Vrikani had noticed the new arrivals too. Their fleet began to shift, turning away from the station to face the incoming threat. The largest ship, a massive vessel covered in organic weapons, moved to the front of their formation. That was the command ship, where their leader waited. And then the communication channel crackled to life. Attention, unidentified vessels. This is Fleet Commander Gorath of the Vrikani Harvest. You are interfering with a sanctioned collection operation. Identify yourselves, or be destroyed. The response came in a human voice. Female. Calm. Almost bored. This is Admiral Jisoo of the United Earth Space Command. You have attacked a station containing citizens of Earth. You have one chance to withdraw. There will not be a second warning. Silence filled the central core of Harmony 7. Every survivor stared at the communication panel. Yuna felt tears running down her face, but she did not wipe them away. The Vrikani commander laughed. It was a horrible sound, wet and clicking, like bones being crushed. Deathworlders. We have heard of you. A young species from a violent world. You think you can threaten the Vrikani? We harvested 1,000 worlds before your kind learned to make fire. Admiral Jisoo's voice did not change. Then you have never met us when we are angry. Your fleet is small. Our ships are superior. You will be harvested like all the others. Another pause. When the Admiral spoke again, there was something new in her voice. Something that made even Yuna feel a shiver run down her spine. I want you to remember something, Commander Gorath. Remember that we gave you a chance. Remember that you refused it. And when your species tells stories about this day for the next 10,000 years, remember that you brought this upon yourselves. The communication channel went dead. Outside, the human fleet did not slow down. They did not form defensive patterns. They did not wait for the enemy to make the first move. They attacked. Yuna watched the sensor display as the 17 human ships hit the Vrikani fleet like a hammer hitting glass. They moved in ways she did not think were possible, pulling turns and spins that should have crushed their crews into paste. But humans could survive forces that would kill other species. Their bodies were built for punishment. Their ships were built to match. Missiles flew. Energy beams slashed across the void. Vrikani ships began to explode, their organic hulls tearing apart under weapons they had never faced before. The human fleet cut through them like a hot knife through ice, leaving destruction in their wake. They are winning, Chirrut whispered. His voice was filled with wonder. The Deathworlders are winning. Chirrut. The Deathworlders are winning. Chirrut. Yuna nodded, but she knew the battle was not over yet. There were still boarding parties on the station. There were still Vrikani between the survivors and safety. As if answering her thoughts, a new voice came over the communication channel. This one was different. Stronger. Closer. Attention Harmony 7 survivors. This is Commander Hena of the UESC Ground Assault Division. We are breaching the station now. Stay behind your barricades. Help is coming. The blast doors at the far end of the central core suddenly shook. Not from the Vrikani trying to break in, from something on the other side, pushing them open. The doors slid apart, revealing a sight that Yuna would remember for the rest of her life. Human soldiers in powered armor stood in the corridor. They were covered in black blood and scorch marks, but they were alive. They were strong. They were here. Commander Hana stepped forward and removed her helmet. She was a young woman with fierce eyes and a scar across her cheek. She looked at the crowd of frightened survivors and smiled. Sorry we are late, she said. Traffic was terrible. Despite everything, Yuna laughed. It was a broken, tearful laugh. But it was real. The humans had come. The Deathworlders had answered the call. The battle lasted 47 minutes. In that time, the galaxy learned why it should fear the children of Earth. Admiral Jisoo stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the tactical display as her fleet tore through the Vracani formation. Her ships moved like dancers, spinning and diving in patterns that no other species could copy. Human pilots could survive acceleration forces that would turn other beings into liquid. Human gunners could track targets with reflexes sharpened by millions of years of hunting prey on a world where everything wanted to kill you. The Vracani had never faced anything like it. Harvester 3 is down, Captain Do-hyun reported from his station. Harvester 5 is breaking formation. They are trying to run. Do not let them, Jisoo ordered. Intercept squadron. Cut off their escape route. Yes, Admiral. Outside the ship, space burned with weapons fire. Human missiles punched through Vracani armor, like it was paper. Energy beams sliced through organic hulls that had been designed to withstand the slow, methodical attacks of civilized species. But humans did not fight civilized. They fought like predators. On Harmony 7, Commander Hana led her soldiers through the corridors in a brutal dance of close combat. Vracani boarders tried to stop them, but they were not prepared for what they faced. The Vracani were 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor. They had claws that could tear through metal and teeth that could bite through bone. They had conquered 1,000 worlds with nothing but their own bodies as weapons. But humans had something the Vracani did not understand: tools. Hana's soldiers wore powered armor that made them as strong as machines. They carried rifles that fired projectiles fast enough to break the sound barrier. They had grenades that exploded with chemical reactions so violent that even the Vracani had never seen anything like them. And they had training that had been refined over centuries of fighting each other on the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. A Vracani warrior leaped at Hana from the shadows. She sidestepped without thinking, her muscles responding faster than her conscious mind. Her armored fist caught the creature in the throat, crushing its windpipe. As it fell, she fired 2 shots into its head, then moved on without breaking stride. Sector 7 is clear, she reported into her communication device, moving to Sector 8. Behind her, a young soldier named Unji checked on a group of alien survivors they had found hiding in a storage room. She was a combat medic, trained to save lives even in the middle of battle. She removed her helmet so the aliens could see her face. A Trivian child flinched away from her. Unji understood. To this child, she was a monster. A Deathworlder. Something to be feared. It is okay, she said softly, kneeling down to meet the child's eyes. We are here to help. No one is going to hurt you anymore. The child's mother, a trembling Trivian female, stared at Unji with compound eyes full of confusion. Why? She asked. Why did you come? We are not your people. Unji thought about the question for a moment. She thought about the stories she had grown up with, the history of her species, the endless wars and conflicts that had shaped humanity into what it was today. She thought about all the times aliens had called her kind monsters and refused to trust them. Then she smiled. Because someone asked for help, she said. And that is what we do. Back in space, the battle was reaching its end. The Vracani fleet had lost 30 ships. The rest were trying to retreat. But Captain Do-hyun's interceptor squadron had cut off every escape route. The human ships circled like wolves around wounded prey. Admiral Jisoo focused on the Vracani command ship. It was the largest vessel in their fleet, covered in organic weapons and armor that made it look like a living mountain floating in space. Inside that ship was Fleet Commander Gorath, the leader who had laughed at her warning. Target the command ship's engines, Jisoo ordered. Disable, do not destroy. Admiral? Do-hyun's voice was surprised. They tried to harvest our people. Why show mercy? Do-hyun. Do-hyun. Because we are not like them, Jisoo replied, and because I want him alive. The Defiance's weapons fired. Precision shots struck the command ship's engine sections, tearing through armor and destroying the systems that powered its movement. The massive vessel went dark and began to drift helplessly in space. Command ship is disabled, the weapons officer reported. Jisoo nodded. Prepare a boarding team. I am going over there personally. The trip to the Vracani command ship took 10 minutes. Jisoo walked through corridors that stank of death and alien biology, her honor guard surrounding her with weapons ready. They passed dead Vrakani warriors who had tried to resist. They passed equipment that had been designed to process living beings into resources. They found Fleet Commander Gorath on the bridge. He was bigger than the other Vrakani, nearly 10 feet tall with armor that had turned gold with age. He sat on a throne made of bones, his eyeless face turned toward the door as the humans entered. "So," he said, his voice still wet and clicking. "The Deathworlders come to gloat." Jisoo stopped in front of him and removed her helmet. She was smaller than him by several feet, but she did not look afraid. She looked at him like he was an insect that had wandered into her home. "I came to deliver a message," she said. "You are going to tell your people what happened here. You are going to tell them that you attacked a station with humans on it. You are going to tell them what we did to your fleet, and you are going to tell them what will happen if anyone ever tries this again." Gorath laughed, but it was a weak sound now. "You think this changes anything? The Vrakani are eternal. We have slept for 10,000 years, but we will rise again. Your species is young. You will not survive what is coming." Jisoo leaned closer, her eyes meeting the sensors on his eyeless face. "You harvested 1,000 worlds because no one could stop you," she said. "You thought you were the top of the food chain, but you made a mistake. You woke up in a galaxy that has humans in it now, and we did not crawl to the top of our food chain by being weak." She straightened up and stepped back. "Broadcast this to the entire sector," she ordered her communication officer. Then she spoke in a voice that echoed across 1,000 frequencies, reaching every species, every station, every listening post in the Outer Rim. "This is the United Earth Space Command. We came because one voice asked for help. One human. One cry in the dark. Know this: wherever our people are, wherever anyone calls for us, we will answer. We are not conquerors. We are not tyrants. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day of our evolution. And we survived. If you threaten the innocent, if you prey on the helpless, we will find you. And we will stop you." She paused, letting the words sink in across the void. "Remember this day. Remember what happened to the Vrakani when they attacked our people. And remember that mercy is a choice we make, not a weakness we suffer from. The next time, we might choose differently." The broadcast ended. Admiral Jisoo turned and walked away from the Vrakani commander, leaving him alive to spread the tale. Behind her, her soldiers secured the ship and began the process of taking prisoners. Not harvesting, not killing, taking prisoners. Because that was what humans did. They fought like monsters when they had to, but they remembered how to be human when the fighting was done. In the ruins of Harmony 7, the survivors began to emerge from their hiding places. They looked at the human soldiers who had saved them, and for the first time, they did not see monsters. They saw protectors. 3 weeks after the Battle of Harmony 7, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from every major species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on the Council world of Nexus Prime. The hall was a massive dome of crystal and light, designed to hold thousands of delegates from across the galaxy. Today, it held something new. A human delegation. Dr. Yuna stood at the front of the group, wearing the simple uniform of a civilian scientist. Beside her was Admiral Jisoo, dressed in the formal black and gold of the United Earth Space Command. Behind them stood a small honor guard of human soldiers, including Commander Hana and Specialist Unji. They were the first humans ever invited to address the full Galactic Council. The council chamber fell silent as High Counselor Veth rose to speak. He was an elder of the Sinari species, a being made of living crystal that glowed with internal light. His voice echoed through the hall like wind chimes. "We have called this assembly to address the events at Research Station Harmony 7, he announced. "The human delegation has been invited to explain their actions." Admiral Jisoo stepped forward. Every eye in the chamber followed her. "What would you like me to explain?" she asked calmly. Counselor Veth's crystal form flickered with irritation. "You acted without council authorization. You brought military vessels into neutral space. You engaged an alien force without diplomatic approval. These actions violate 17 different interspecies treaties." "I was aware of the treaties," Jisoo replied. "I chose to ignore them." Number. Shocked murmurs rippled through the assembly. Such open defiance had never been spoken in this hall. You admit this? Veth demanded. Yes. One of our citizens sent a distress call. She was in danger. I responded. The council was handling the situation. Admiral Jisu's expression did not change, but something cold entered her voice. The council was 6 days away. 4 stations had already been destroyed. 1,200 survivors were trapped with no hope of rescue. And the council called it equipment failure. More murmurs. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. We were investigating, Veth said defensively. We did not want to cause panic. You did not want to admit that your ancient enemy had returned. Jisu's words cut through the air like a blade. You hoped the problem would go away on its own. You were willing to let 3,000 beings die to avoid admitting that the Vrekani still existed. That is not. It is exactly what happened. Jisu took another step forward. I know because I reviewed your communications. Your intelligence agencies knew about the Vrekani within hours of the first attack. They chose to hide the information. They chose to let innocent people die rather than face an uncomfortable truth. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted at each other. Accusations flew back and forth. Councillor Veth tried to restore order, but his voice was lost in the noise. It was Yuna who finally broke through. Enough, she said, and somehow her quiet voice carried across the entire hall. Everyone fell silent, surprised by the small human woman who had stepped forward. I am not a soldier, she continued. I am a scientist. I came to Harmony 7 5 years ago because I wanted to learn about the galaxy. I wanted to understand species other than my own. I wanted to make friends. She paused, looking around the chamber at the thousands of alien faces watching her. Instead, I found fear. Every species I met was afraid of me. Not because of anything I did, but because of where I came from. They called me a Deathworlder like it was a curse. They avoided me in the corridors. They refused to eat meals with me. They treated me like a monster. Her voice grew stronger. And when the real monsters came, when the Vrekani started harvesting people, and the council did nothing, I had only one choice. I sent a message to Earth. 3 words. Earth. Help. Please. She looked directly at Councillor Veth. Do you know what happened next? Admiral Jisu mobilized a fleet within 6 hours. She brought 17 warships across 62 light-years of space. She risked her career, her life, and the lives of 4,000 soldiers to answer my call. Not because of treaties, not because of politics, because I asked for help. Yuna gestured at the human delegation behind her. That is what humans do. We help each other. And if you let us, we will help you too. Silence filled the chamber again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. Not shocked or angry. Thoughtful, a new voice spoke up. It was Chirik, the young Trivian who had led the survivors of Harmony 7. He had been invited to the assembly as a witness. I would like to speak, he said. Councillor Veth nodded. Chirik walked to the center of the chamber, his antennae held high. I have lived my entire life being told that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, violent. I was taught to fear them and avoid them. He paused. I was right. They are all those things. Several delegates nodded, waiting for him to condemn the humans, but Chirik continued. I watched them fight the Vrekani. They were more violent than any species I have ever seen. They moved faster, hit harder, and showed no mercy to their enemies. It was terrifying. He turned to look at the human delegation, but then I watched them afterwards. I saw their medics treating our wounded with the same care they showed their own. I saw their soldiers carrying our children to safety. I saw a Deathworlder kneel down to comfort a scared little girl and promise her that everything would be okay. His voice grew stronger. The humans are violent, but they choose when to be violent. They fight like demons when they need to protect the innocent. And they show kindness when the fighting is done. That is not the behavior of monsters. That is the behavior of protectors. He faced the full assembly. I move that the Galactic Council offer Earth full membership in the assembly. Not because we need their protection, though we clearly do, but because they have shown us something we forgot existed. What is that? Counselor Veth asked. Chirrut looked at Yuna, at Admiral Jisoo, at the human delegation standing proud and unafraid. Hope, he said. When the darkness came, when the ancient evil returned, when no one else would answer the call, the Deathworlders came, and they brought light with them. The vote was held that day. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, a species was admitted to full membership without completing the standard century-long integration process. The motion passed with an overwhelming majority. Earth was no longer alone in the galaxy. After the assembly ended, Yuna found herself standing on a balcony overlooking the crystal spires of Nexus Prime. The sunset painted the sky in shades of purple and gold that she had never seen on Earth. It was beautiful, but different, alien. Admiral Jisoo joined her. You did well in there, the Admiral said. Yuna shook her head. I just told the truth. Sometimes that is the hardest thing to do. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the alien sun sink below the horizon. What happens now? Yuna asked. Now, everything changes. Jisoo smiled slightly. The galaxy knows about us. They know what we can do. Some of them will be afraid. Some of them will want our help. And some of them will try to test us, to see if we are as strong as we appear. And what will we do? Admiral Jisoo turned to look at her. In her eyes, Yuna saw something that she had never expected to see from a military commander. Hope. We will do what we have always done, Jisoo said. We will survive. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we will show the galaxy that being born on a death world does not make you a monster. It makes you strong enough to fight the monsters. Yuna nodded. She thought about the small Phoenix child who had asked if the monsters were going to eat them. She thought about the promise she had made. A promise she had not believed she could keep, but she had kept it, because help had come, because she had asked, and the Deathworlders had answered. Far away, across 62 light-years of space, the blue planet Earth turned slowly in the light of its yellow sun. It was still a dangerous world. It was still a place that made monsters, but now the galaxy knew that it also made heroes, and whenever someone cried out for help, wherever they were in the vast darkness between the stars, the children of Earth would answer. That was their promise. That was their nature. That was what it meant to be human.